Welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, the show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs use human design to shift from hustle to flow without sacrificing results. Come here to become an unshakable human and build an unshakable business according to your human design. I'm your host, Nicole. Hello and welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, everybody. I'm your host, Nicole, and I am so happy to be here with you as always. And I want to talk, this is going to be a very business-focused episode. And I want to start out, though, with a little call to my transformational coaches, service providers, those spiritual entrepreneurs that I know you're most likely one of them if you're listening to this show. And I hope this show is just a living, breathing kind of representation of this message, but I want to say it really, really directly. This is our time. What we're in right now, it's your time. Whether you are a healer and someone who does energetic work of some kind, if you are a creative, and maybe you've felt like a square peg being fit into a round hole before, and maybe that's caused you to shrink back a little bit, or maybe that has caused you to not feel like you are worthy of getting paid for the work that you do. And mind you, that subconscious belief will hold you back from actually being able to get paid. So you need to work on that for sure. That needs to be taken care of first. But this is our time. The time for the purely strategic and where our type of work was not valued is over. I know you're feeling the shift already. I know that you're seeing that the people who subscribed very, very loyally to the more strategic and linear paths in life, they're seeing things fall apart in their life. They're seeing things not go well. They are seeing things and experiencing things that are rocking their world. And you might not be as touched by this stuff because of all the work that you do and who you are and what you represent here. But so these people, these linear people, they need your help. So it's your time, and this is kind of just my message that I want to start this off with. It's your time to step up and say, here's what I do. Here's how I help you. Here's how you know I can help you. Your work is needed. You have beautiful, beautiful work. I know you do. And it deserves to be heard. It deserves to be seen. It deserves to be paid. That energetic exchange. Let this be an invitation to you to start opening that door bigger of what you will allow in, of what you will allow yourself to be seen as. But here's the thing. There's one thing about being really great at what you do, which I know that you are. I know that if you're listening to this, you're really great at what you do. But you're probably putting things out online, maybe feeling like maybe people don't need or want what you sell because you get those, you're so inspiring. And people are always so interested in telling you things like, I love that when you talk about what you do, but they're not buying. They're not putting their money down and saying, and now I want you to help me with this. I need that. That is not an indication that what you do is not valuable, but it is an indication that you are not communicating the value of what you do correctly or as effectively as you could. Now, I want to talk in this episode about content and about we're going to go into creating conversion content that actually builds demand for your offers. We're going to talk about human design and that factor of how that can amplify your results, shift your brand and shift your content into something that really starts to attract your ideal buyers and gets people seeing you as the person to help them, the only one. Okay? So if that sounds good to you, that's where we're going to go in this episode. Before we start, we are officially signing up people, registering people for our Authority Accelerator Masterclass. This is the 5-day masterclass that I have put on. Maybe you've come to it before. We haven't done it since 2024. This is our first one of 2025. So this is your chance to get in on it. We won't do it again for another several months. So please come. This is a free 5-day masterclass where I am showing you how to build your business and become an authority according to your human design. We go through something that I call the Authority Matrix, where I take you through my particular cocktail of human design elements that help position you as an authority, but then also the business building elements of all of this that make all of it work for you so that you aren't just inspiring, you're not just magnetic from a personality perspective, but you actually, not only can you get people to pay you, but you can really deliver for those people when they hire you. So you get to be in total integrity with what you do. And when you do that, you start showing up differently and the results change. So I'm going to give you my whole framework for how I do that. We have changed this workshop. It's definitely different than it was last year. We have refreshed it and revived it. So if you have come before, please come again, because I guarantee you will get something different out of this new format. And I hope you love it. So if you want to register for that, all you have to do is go to Instagram and DM me the word masterclass, and I will register you right there in the DMs, or I won't, but my bot will. Or you could go to nicoleleno.com/masterclass and you can register right there on our website. Okay, now let's dive into this episode, shall we? First, I want to say that, when we talk about branding, we talk about content, we talk about human design, I actually see them all as really being almost not quite one thing, but really, really entwined where it's hard to pull them apart. So I tend to speak about personal brand. When personal branding is sort of made content, they're synonymous to me. Brand is who you are. And then content is how you tell people about who you are and what you do. But you can't separate them. You can't just have content. If you don't have a brand, then your content's going to be very thin. Then it's not really going to deliver the message that you want. And so many people focus on writing content. They're buying all of these templates and all of these like content frameworks and taking, buying Reels memberships and all of that. But they don't really have a brand behind it. And those programs, the Instagram growth programs and all of these things where they take you through, a quick module on branding, they often don't go deep enough, not for the audience that I speak to, not for the transformational coaches, not for the spiritual entrepreneurs, because we have a different type of job, don't we? We deliver something different. We have to speak about it kind of differently. And we have to approach that differently. And most spiritual entrepreneurs, I find, they become their certifications. They become their skills. And then they focus on like what they're calling themselves to put in like the bio on their Instagram page. Agonizing over whether they should be called a success coach or a life coach, or do they call themselves a conscious parenting guide? And all of that is well and good. I'm not bad-mouthing any of it, but it's not even close to being the most important part of what you put out online. And your brand and your content, that could be an email, it could be on social media, it could be in a podcast. Content is how you deliver it. It's the message that you put out there. The brand is the other piece of who you are and the special sauce that is you, what makes you different. That's what becomes a message. And without a message, when you're just writing content and there's no message, then that's what lands you in that zone where people are telling you how inspiring you are. They tell you how inspiring you are and how they love it for you, but they're not actually buying, right? So when you start writing content, you don't really have a message. I always say that a lot of entrepreneurs end up in this space with two types of content, right? They have the you go girl content, and that's the inspiring content. That's the stuff where it's like you driving in a car in a reel, and there's like a snappy, like you go girl kind of caption, or like something that's saying like, oh, well, you can do it. Fine. And then there's how-to content. And that's you teaching people and talking about what you do. And what that usually results in is very little engagement. So people aren't really responding to it. You get comments like "you're so inspiring" and "love this," and or just emojis. And what that results in is low and inconsistent sales, right? So what happens when you have those things? Usually those entrepreneurs that are getting those type of results also end up hating social media. And then that results in them being inconsistent on social media. You end up getting this really yucky relationship with social media, with putting content out there. Which if you're not putting content out there, if you're not marketing, let's just say that, if you're not marketing yourself, then it's going to be difficult to make sales. And if it's difficult to make sales and sales aren't coming in on a regular basis, which they should be coming in on a regular basis. If they're not doing that, then you start to feel unsuccessful. Then your energy starts to get pulled down, and then you're battling yourself. And that's really hard. So do you see how even just having one thing like content writing and where that comes from has such a knock-on effect on all the other things in your business? How you show up, how often you show up. And then you have this consistency problem. And then what you think is, I need to be more consistent. So then they go out and they're like, I'm going to do a 30-day Reels challenge. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But they're not solving the problem that comes with this. The problem, if you're inconsistent, the root cause of that problem is that you don't have a message that's built to sell. So this is the two things that are missing here from this very typical sort of pattern that I see with spiritual entrepreneurs is they're missing two things. They're missing conversion content, which is content that's building demand for their offers. And that means their offers are structured a certain way and they are messaging those offers. Like everything that you put out is somehow making people want what you have more. That's what it does. That's what all of your content should be doing on some level. It should either be drawing people very close to you and making them see how you're special and something about you, or it should do both. Ideally, they're doing both, but I'll split this up. Or it should be driving demand directly for your offer. Or your lead magnets, which should have a direct connection to your offers so that the people that you're pulling in are qualified buyers for what it is that you're offering. This is how we start to have consistent sales. This is how I know if I'm putting good content out on Instagram or on this podcast that my audience is primed to buy. My audience is primed to buy. Now, I have several things and I understand that this comes with the spiritual space as well. I have a number of offers that I put out there because I have different types of people in my audience. I have some people who are just starting out. So we have offers for those people who are maybe not ready for my signature program, right? But I've structured that in a way that all of the content that I share, it is all for the same type of person. It's just where are you at part of the journey are you at is where you fit in, and they get to choose. But all of my content is doing that job. The second piece that is missing is them. It's usually them that's missing. There's no special sauce. There's nothing that is telling people, drawing people in to say, you're the one for me. Now, when we put these two things together, conversion content and the special sauce, which I come at it, the special sauce I get to through the human design work. Human design gives you this beautiful capability to see yourself differently and lift up into your gifts and see, oh, maybe I wasn't unsuccessful at this thing because I suck, but because that's not how my energy works. Oh, what if I made this slight shift and I started to focus over here instead? And then we start to see movement. We start to see change with subtle tweaks, with changes to the way you show up and who you show up as. And then creating that conversion content that's building demand for your offers. This is how we start to see real change. This is how we start to see sales come on a regular basis, where there is a consistent a consistent flow of people into your offers. Okay. So let's talk about the first one. I want to break this down here, and I want to talk about what conversion content is. So conversion content is content that's calling out how your method helps people. In its simplest form, we have to tell people how we help. And that's honestly usually what a lot of entrepreneurs are missing. They'll tell people what they do, but they won't tell them why they should care. You do have to let them know what's in it for them, especially because some of you are going to be calling out to some people who are just starting to get comfortable in the world that you serve. Now that might sound a little, I know some entrepreneurs, some spiritual folk get a little upset because it feels like, oh, well, they're not here yet. Or, I know it's coming, but they're not here yet. There aren't the buyers yet. Yes, there are. There absolutely are. And guess what? You get to be a pioneer of this new world, and you get to claim that space. You are a leader, maybe in waiting. Okay? So you need to start telling people what problems your work helps them with. And I know that sounds really basic, and you've probably heard it before, but like I always say, okay, you've heard it. Are you doing it? Because I don't care what you've heard. I care what you're doing. And you're either not actioning it because you don't know how, or you're avoiding it because it makes you uncomfortable. Whichever one it is, you have to deal with it so that you can actually fix the problem. That's what I work with people on. I have so many people that are like, yeah, I know I need to talk about the problem, or I need to talk about the solution, or I need to talk about the results that I get for people. But it's just like my work doesn't work like that. I get all these different results for people. And it's like, okay, talk about all of them. Share the stories. And then that can kick up other resistance. So as entrepreneurs, we need to work through this. I know that there can sometimes be a little bit of inferiority complex with spiritual entrepreneurs because we don't have the hooks like other people have. We don't have this is how my client made $1 million in 3 days after using my simple 2-step formula. Or this is how my client got 1 million views on her latest reel. This is how my client went viral. Those are very snappy, like high value hooks of real deep desires that people have. And if that's the results that people are getting, then they're using them. And I get it. It can feel, especially when somebody who's teaching you only teaches you how to use hooks like this is how I had a $700,000 month. When you don't have that result, that hook feels way less exciting when you go to use it and say, this is how my client feels better now. You do have to come at it where you're giving the ultimate result for people. You're actually sharing what you've done for people and really digging into that. And that's what we help you do. But content doesn't have to be dry. It doesn't have to be those kind of hooks necessarily. It does not have to be about, you don't have to deliver money. You don't have to deliver that type of transformation, but you do have to know the type of transformation that you do offer. And your content doesn't have to be overly structured, but it does have to show the results that you get for people and how you get them. And a problem that I see is that a lot of transformational entrepreneurs the problem is that they don't know how they get results for people. And they don't know what the results are that they get for people. They just know that they're good at what they do. And this is why human design is so important, because when you coach people by human design, or when you understand your human design, we find your way to make this conversion content piece yours. Like if you're a 2-line, you're going to have a very difficult time maybe applying some of these hard-line formulas. You might not be able to as easily shift over into that than like me, someone who's a 5-1. So I have to work with you in a different way to get you to the same results that people are getting. And we just have to approach it differently. So give yourself grace. If it hasn't worked before, it's just because you haven't found your way with it. Now let's talk about the human design part. Let's talk about the your special sauce part of your message, because you'll probably see there are a lot of people online where, I mean, I could take the content and just slap it on somebody else's page and you wouldn't know the difference, right? Because it's so similar. And everybody's writing with AI now. So with AI writing everything, it really is starting to sound like everybody else has the same message as everyone else in their field. We don't want that. And there's something about the way that we put out content and messaging that doesn't really feel authentic to us. We won't attract the people that we're meant to attract with just the right words. It has to be the right energy. So the first step is, what makes you special? What makes you different than any other life coach or Reiki healer or sound healer or breathwork facilitator? Because if you're just talking about the same things that everybody else is, then it comes down to price, right? Then it comes down to who people are drawn to or what's the best value that they could get for the thing that you do. So you have to be able to differentiate yourself and position yourself as an expert and the only choice for that particular person. Your chart, your human design chart, has been calling to you. I find that with everybody. You speak it already. It's already part of who you are. And it's why you're here doing what you do. It's how you got here on some level. Either through you trying to work through some of its shadows, and now this is your journey, and now you're here and you're figuring out, how do I sell that journey? How do I sell that work? Or it is just something that feels like it needs to break out of you. But a lot of times what happens is we've listened to the bros too long and we've lost ourselves and lost our confidence in those content frameworks and the soulless sales language, right? So what we have to do is we have to connect the chart with your message. And let me give you kind of an example. I think that this helps. So I have a client, Christine comes to mind. Christine is a regenerative rancher. Christine, if you're listening, hello. She consults, she has a group program that teaches other homesteaders and ranchers who want to transition to sustainable farming, right? She has this beautiful program. She has an amazing Instagram. It's Regen Ranch. I believe look up Regen Ranch and you'll find her on Instagram. She has wonderful videos. And she just launched her podcast called the Thriving Land Steward. And we've been working on her brand and her business for a year now. And what I just described about her, that she's a regenerative rancher, she consults, has a group program for homesteaders and ranchers who want to transition to sustainable farming. That's what she does. It's not who she is. So it's not everything. So when you're sitting there with just like what I do, that content starts to come out really dry, really just starting to feel, and I'll never say soulless because Christine is the furthest thing from soulless, but it just doesn't come out as really being connected, where you're feeling her and you're getting her level of expertise. So when we worked on her brand and we started to work her human design into it, one of the things that we looked at, she's a vessel of love. And that is her incarnation cross. And understanding that and really being able to work with the energy of her cross. And we've done tons of contemplation around this. She's done a lot of deconditioning. She has really, really committed herself to the work in such a beautiful way that it gave her permission to show up and put her love of nature front and center. So now that both positions her as somebody who's maybe different than somebody who's just teaching farmers how to farm, ranchers how to take care of their ranch, how to take care of their livestock, how to get the most out of their land. She's coming at it from this beautifully heart-centered place. So we put that right in front in her brand and gave her permission to let that out and let people see it, right? And then we dove into her cosmic niche, and we've done so much work around her brand. There's so much more to this, but I want to keep this concise. We dove into her cosmic niche, and that told her that the people she serves and how she serves them, it gave her that understanding of who that specific niche within a niche is. Because it's ranchers. We knew that already. She didn't need she had the demographics. She had the details. She had everything that a traditional content writing program would give her in figuring out who her niche was. But how does she speak to that niche in a way that she knows what they need to hear and what she needs to say in order to get that message through? What's the message for them? And for her, it was really about the outdated ways of farming, which were forcing nature, that causes harm to the earth, but it also causes harm to their profits. This is a very specific aspect of her niche. And every gate has such nuance, and every aspect of the chart can be looked at a number of ways. So she and I, through our coaching calls and she had one-on-ones, she's part of the program that has one-on-ones with me. Through the one-on-ones and through the coaching calls, our hot seat calls, and the Telegram that we have, I was able to show her all of the different ways of these gates operating. She has her South Node in Gate 5. And when I was talking to her about that, I was like, well, there's something about Gate 5 that understands that more is happening underneath us or underneath everything. Even when we can't see progress being made, it is. There's great patience in it. There's respect for the flow of nature. And she was like, oh my God, that's everything. And I'm like, okay, well, how can you speak to the people who maybe don't understand that? Maybe they've been fighting that. Maybe they've been trying to force progress. And this is how, through a conversation, we can start to get to some real nuanced messaging around something that felt like maybe she had a message already. But how do we make it feel more like her? And she speaks with such passion when she talks about this stuff. She's been asked to speak on countless stages since she's joined this program. She's keynoting and speaking on panels all the time. And she goes and she gets emotional about this stuff, but it comes from such an authentic place. And people love her for it. And that's what happens when we bring ourselves into the brand. Years ago, they used to say, like, you have to have authenticity in your brand. And you still do. That's not something that has gone away. But I think what authenticity means has started to really deepen over the last couple of years. That just being authentic, it used to be just show me what you were eating for breakfast. And now we're like, I don't care what you're eating for breakfast. I care who you really are. And now we're not just thinking about, are the words that they're saying making sense to me? That's not how buyers are buying anymore. Buyers are now energetically feeling out the people that they are thinking of buying from. They are feeling if you are in integrity. They are feeling if that feels real from you. I know that what I deliver on this show, people tell me all the time that the most common thing that people say to me is that, the way that I explain human design makes so much sense. It's clear, it's concise. The way that I explain it like, for some reason, it suddenly clicks for them. And I love that. But I think that they also get that I'm pretty authentic with the way that I show up. That this is kind of what I'm meant to do. That the way that I communicate is authentic. I'm not manufacturing this. I'm also not manufacturing my expertise. Part of my magic is the way that I break things down. And the way that I break things down is part of my special sauce. My 64, I provide clarity. I give clarity. But in order for me to give clarity, I have to have clarity. So that's what I represent. So I make it my job here to convey that clarity, to be an example of it, and to share what I have gained clarity on, which is human design, which is something that confuses a lot of people. They know it holds value for them, but they're like, how? How do I understand this? How do I understand me more? More people are being called to this work. So I've had success because people have said, I know I have to work with you. And that's not just because of what I do. It's because that's magnetism. And I'm not magnetic where I'm like, in mini skirts getting off of private jets. That's not my magnetic. I'm just talking, but I'm speaking from my heart, from my experience, and people see something truthful and they see something of value for them from me. That's what selling is about. So I hope you found this useful. I hope this gave you some insight into how you can go from so inspiring to actually converting clients with the content that you put out, how a message is so important. And I hope it inspired you to come to the Authority Accelerator Masterclass. Come with us, hang out. We'll be doing this for 5 days. Replays are always available, of course. To register, you can register totally for free. All you have to do is DM me on Instagram, Masterclass. I'm at Nicole Leno Official. Just DM me that word. We'll register you right there in the DMs. Or you could go to NicoleLeno.com/masterclass and we will register you right there on the website. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design, everyone. We will see you next time. If you love this episode and you're a fan of the show, please show us the love on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to the show and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with other entrepreneurs on their human design journey, join our free Facebook community, Human Design for Entrepreneurs. Go to NicoleLeno.me/podcast links to join the group, book a human design reading with me, or access our free human design resources. We'll see you there.